following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hi, everybody. This is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
Nels Bennett.
T.W. Anderson.
Sean Oliver.
My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge podcast.
Now get on the train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. Great to be with you all once again here tonight. It's a cold evening here in Perth, Western Australia, and I'm keeping myself warm as per usual with my glass of red wine. I have this great opportunity here today. This is a first for me, to be speaking to a current world heavyweight champion. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion, the one and only Nick Aldis. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Carl, but I have to say, you know, it might be the evening where you are, but it's first thing in the morning where I am. So yeah, I'm just going to need you to just dial that down a little bit. You're sipping red wine, I'm sipping coffee. I wasn't prepared for this level of energy right off the bat.
I apologize, my friend.
Settle down over there.
I'm Australian. This is how we are. But Nick, before I get into the interview, there's something that you and I recently we both went through together, and I'm wearing a shirt right now. My mum's English, my dad's Italian. And when I follow the football, I follow England no matter what, even if they're against Italy. And I found myself in a very strange situation of the final. And look, I don't want to bring up too many horrible memories for you, but for me, by that point of the night in the final, it was nearly 6 o'clock in the morning for me. I'd had a few beers, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on the tragedy that took place that day.
You know, I think it's, unfortunately, it's very indicative of what I've always thought is the biggest thing holding back the national team when it comes to football is there's this a very limiting beliefs. They're very, you know, I'm very big on energy and you know, having the right kind of mindset and thoughts, and I'm not saying it's their fault. I think it's the country's fault as a whole, because between the tabloids, there is a whole sort of industry that exists based on complaining about how disappointing the team is. Like, it's sort of, that in itself is now an industry. Like, oh, who are we going to blame this time? Oh, you know, tragedy. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because right away it becomes this thing of like, oh, I hope we don't do what we always do, which is play too safe and hold back, and you know, and don't play aggressively enough, and you know, just move the ball around and don't make enough moves on goal. And then it happens, and it's like I you know, I obviously, you know, America's funny for football, because, you know, one of the things that makes America great is the fact that it's a young country, so there's still very much this sort of feeling of diversity as far as immigrants. You know, that there are people who really take a lot of pride in their heritage, you know, Irish or Italian or Greek or, you know, wherever they come from. And so suddenly when it comes to football, suddenly all these people's nationalities all come out. You know, they're other ones, you know, so you suddenly get all these Americans who are suddenly Italian, and, you know, you get, you know, and all that sort of thing. So I was having fun with a few of my friends over here who are Italian Americans, you know, some of whom, despite never having been to Italy, but, you know, there you go. But, you know, it's like, I said to one of them, when we scored in the first, I lost my shit when we scored in the first like 2 minutes. But at the same time, And again, I'm as much part of the problem as anyone else, because it's the first thing I did. I was texting with. I've got like a little. There's a certain people that I text during football, and one of them was at Wembley. One of my best friends, Luke, he was at Wembley. So of course he's sending me like videos of them just going nuts and all this other thing. But right away we're all going, oh no, not the early goal. Like it's the throughout history has been the worst thing that can happen to the English national team is to get an early goal, because right away they just try to put it in the deep freeze, and they try to sit back and play. So you can't do that with the Italians. They're way too creative, way too strong attacking. And to play like it. Now it's like I always have the mentality of with football. So I played to a fairly decent level when I was a kid. But it's like if you go 1-0 up, you basically just don't treat it as like that's a win. Treat it as like now you've got a little bit of a cushion to take a bit more, a few more calculated risks, and it's like, but I think the biggest issue it's a cycle between the media, the fans, and the players, is that nobody wants to be the one who gets blamed. Like no one wants to be the one who gave away possession, which then led to the goal. Nobody wants to be the one who, missed a sitter, from 6 yards. No one wants to be the one who, so instead they all just hold the ball, pass it to someone else, just try to keep possession, no one wants to take a risk. Like no one wants to be a hero, because they know that instead of thinking about, wow, I could be a hero, I could be the one, they're going, oh, but what if I'm not? Like I'll be torn apart by the papers, and and then and it's all and I there's no way to fix it. Like it's a culture, and and to me I've always felt like that's the biggest thing holding English football back on the international level, because it's not something that only exists in England, but it's certainly worse. Like it's a bit like it's a bit like wrestling fans, like, what have you done for me lately? Like it's sort of like, don't worry about all the years, all the miles you've put in, all the places you've wrestled, all the times you've wrestled hurt or sick, or all the guys that you've made along the way and stuff. It's like, if you haven't done anything in the last few weeks or the last few months, it's like, all right, well, what have you done? Right away, same thing. I mean, I've been going through it recently with, it's like, oh, he hasn't defended the title enough, or he hasn't done this, and it's like, it's not up to me. Like, you think I'm sitting around making my own matches? Like, no, like, but they don't, and suddenly all the work that was done for the last 3 years is sort of forgotten about, because it's like now, because you become a target, and that sort of culture is like, it's exhausting.
I can imagine. I get exhausted defending people all the time, and I see people in comment sections on the internet. The comment section is like the most evil part of the internet, because people can create these accounts that don't show who they actually are, don't have the actual name, and there'll be an article about somebody, and they'll immediately condescendingly, who, he's never drawn any money, blah blah blah.
Right.
Like Barry Horowitz the other week, there was an article about him and someone, and I just went at him, and I'm like, how dare you, man? If it wasn't for people like him, the people up above wouldn't be in that position, because they need people like a Barry Horowitz, those types of guys. Yeah.
Well, I'm a the Roosevelt the man in the arena. That's sort of my go-to. That really represents how I feel about social media in general and the internet, but it's certainly wrestling, social media, wrestling, the IWC, I guess is what people call it. But it's the man in the arena thing. I'm always going to have infinitely more respect for the guys and girls who had the courage to take a risk and put themselves out there, to subject themselves to scrutiny, than the ones who never did, who then sort of make a career off of scrutinizing everybody else's stuff. And just like the single source journalism is just like such a toxic part of the industry now, where it's like somebody with an axe to grind can just send something to someone and they don't verify it, they don't check it, they just go, hey, well, someone told me, and a source inside so and so tells me that this happened, you know, like it's like you can't do that. Like that's not reporting, you know, like no reputable publication would accept that. You can't, like, imagine going into an editor and being like, hey, so and so just called me and said this guy he hates you know, sells drugs to kids. Like, you know, like, well, are you sure that that's, you know, are you sure you want to print that? Because it might just be that this guy's trying to trash this other guy, you know, but they don't, they just write it, you know, and it's like, the people believe what they want to believe, and it just becomes, the whole thing, I'll say this just from my own perspective, like, I'm you know, like everyone's targeted to a certain degree, like, and I'm sure I am to a certain degree, but no worse than anyone else in my sort of position, I guess, or a comparable position. But like, I don't read it. I hate to break it to anyone who thinks they're, you know, sort of cracking through, you know, but like I go on and I post what I'm posting, usually to promote whatever I'm promoting, and then I get the hell out of there. I got too much stuff going on. Like, I'm running 2 businesses and I'm contributing, you know, what I can, you know, with the NWA, and I'm raising a family. I'm like, I ain't got time for this.
Absolutely. And yeah, it does blow my mind that for whatever reason, wrestling, we're allowed to have journalists be able to post information out there as if it's, you know.
Well, they're the stars now.
Yeah.
You know, like they in their mind, they feel like they're entitled to be as big a bigger star, a bigger name as anyone in the industry, you know. And it's like, okay, I don't. Problem is that we can't sell tickets for what you're doing, you know. Like the only person that benefits from what they is them.
Yeah.
Like if they write spoilers, or they write, you know, so and so's got heat, or this happened because of this, and blah blah blah. Like the only person that's benefiting is them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, a lot of wrestlers don't understand that, and they're just too busy trying to sort of push their own agenda because they've got an axe to grind, or because they want to win whatever little sort of beef they've got going on. And they don't realize, like, well, the whole industry's suffering because it's you know, it's harder and harder to create buzz about something. It's harder and harder to create any sort of anticipation for anything, because it's like this one guy decided his site was more important than you know, the fans and all the people that are spending their own money, or putting their bodies at risk for the sake of entertaining people. It's a bit like I'll qualify that I'm not fully up to speed on the whole thing, but I've seen a lot of this stuff with Ariel Helwani and Dana White and everything, and I like Ariel, you know, I'm a fan of Ariel's, but it's like there is some validity to the argument for the other side, which is like, hey man, we're a private company, and you're breaking stuff, like you're breaking news about, you know, so and so is going to fight so and so, you know, because somebody told you or whatever. But it's like they're going to tell everyone that anyway. So like, it's not, you know, this sort of idea that they're doing like journalistic work, like we're not talking about the fucking UN here. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not talking about, you know, geopolitical issues that have major ramifications on our world and our society, and you know, that a well-informed electorate needs in order to cast a vote. We're talking about wrestling or MMA or whatever. It's like, let them tell people when the time is right. Like they spent all this money to make it happen. Like let them make the announcement, you know. So it's I kind of see both sides of it, you know. Now I know that that's, and I'm just purely speaking to that particular element of that issue, you know. Like I'm not, you know, I don't know anything about Dana White or the way the UFC does business and all of that business with Ariel, it seemed like for certain there was some like real animosity there, and perhaps they were a bit stiff on him. But I'm just using that as an example because it highlighted the same thing I feel about a lot of the guys in wrestling who post spoilers or sort of give away like, oh, the plans for this person are this and this, and I sort of go like, it's just sort of, you're taking the fun out of it.
Yeah.
For the sake of and the only person who's benefiting is you. Like, you get more clicks and followers and advertising revenue, just you. Like, so it's, it's like let's let everyone else do all the work and spend the money and take the risk, and then I'll just sneak in and steal the. It's like, it's, to me, it's a shaky ground ethically. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, in my research, I found out that you're only 2 months older than me. So I was a fan back, in the 90s when you didn't know anything, and it was so much more fun. And when we in high school realized that there were websites that told you things and all that, we started going on them, and the fun got taken out of it. And they would always have like spoilers up, and my friends would be like, "Oh, this happens on Raw on Monday night." And I'm like, "Don't tell me. I don't want to know." Yeah. But why are you ruining for yourself?
I remember like prowrestling.net, and I remember those things popping up and being like, "Whoa," like, "Oh, I heard there was a fight backstage," or something like that. But I do remember getting to a point where I would sort of start filtering my own stuff. Even like I would scroll through that stuff and then go, if I saw like spoilers and stuff, I wouldn't click them. Like, I wanted to enjoy it and see. But, a lot of the time I would, because also, and I guess this was maybe part of me already kind of understanding, maybe on a subconscious level, that I wanted to get into the business. But I remember I would see things on the show and I would think to myself, oh, I wonder if that's like planting a seed. Obviously, I didn't know that term at the time, but but in my subconsciously, I'm going, oh, I wonder if that means that down the road it's going to head, and then I would purposefully not want to see any spoilers or anything like that, because I wanted to see if I was right. I wanted to see if I wanted to see if I had good instincts. And so then if it did happen, I'd go, "Oh, I knew it," and you learn about booking and things like that way, because if you're sort of studying it without, the problem is, I think a lot of it happens with wrestling, it's become so over intellectualized. Like, everyone sits there and who have never done it, never written anything, never booked anything, never wrestled, never done anything, and then. But because they've read sort of theories, essentially, or hypotheses on sort of what's good booking versus bad booking, for example, or whatever, they and now they're suddenly going, this, like, they start sort of throwing out their opinions on this stuff, and they don't. And half the time I'm going like, well, hold on, this angle just started. You don't even know where they're going with it. That's the part that's kind of. That's taken a lot of the fun out of it for me, is that I was actually talking about this as a guy who goes to my gym, who is like, he is what I would call today a casual fan. But even he, as a casual fan, even he is like reading, dirt sheet stuff and all that kind of thing because of social media. Like, he's not a subscriber to Meltzer or Wade Keller or whatever, but because of Twitter, it's like, you can't avoid it. It's like right in your face. So then he's going like, hey, I heard that this and that's gonna happen, and I'll be like, I don't know. And I'll be like, or he said something to me that was sort of like definitive, like, this is this and this is that, and I was and I looked at him and went like, how do you know that? And he was like, well, I'm just saying. I was like, no, you don't know. That's the point. You don't know. But like, we've lost. What what's happened is, in what I see anyway, is that we've lost this ability for people to say, in my opinion, I think. It's always, people start they say these incredibly opinionated things about a certain person or a certain company or a certain, whatever. And they go, everybody knows that blank. Like, no, they don't. You think. It's like the whole fucking, who's the best? Hey, this is a subjective medium. There is no such thing as the best. There is no quantifiable metric. There's no way to measure it other than who drew the most money. Like, that's the only metric. And even that obviously requires some interpretation, because it's like, everyone knows that you need a bit of, you need the support of the promotion as well. So it's like, you kind of have to go, well, this particular act is the most successful, but again, people very rarely say so and so is my favorite wrestler. They say so and so is the best wrestler. No, he's your favorite.
Yeah.
Like, and that's cool, man. Good for you. Like, it's cool that he's your favorite. Trust me. No one I know, and I know quite a lot of people, across most of the major promotions. No one I know is losing any sleep about who's considered the best. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no one's sitting there going, "Durr." Like, I can't believe that so and so said that, but it's like these guys. So I see these people online, they just lose their minds.
I know.
And I'm just going, like, what do you care? Like, what do you like? These guys are making money from you. They don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't need you to fight their battles for them. They just you vote with your money, right? Like, if you like them, buy their shit, pay to see their pay-per-view. Don't maybe don't watch it illegally online, like, and stuff like that. It's like the whole thing just gets exhausting, man, I tell you.
Oh yeah, especially from like my point of view as a fan, it gets tiring seeing all the AEW and the WWE fans just constantly arguing. It's hot. Like I've never seen it as toxic as it is right now. I remember when I was 12 years old, WCW, WWF, we all liked both companies.
I was going to say everyone watched both, right?
Yeah.
I definitely considered myself more of a WWF kid, but I never sat there and went, WCW sucks, like, don't get me wrong. I remember towards the end, like, tuning into like whatever we could get, in British broadcasting of WCW was always a whole subsection in and of itself, because it's just bizarre. But like, I remember for a while they had like Worldwide on like Channel 5.
Yeah. And
Channel 5 already had a bit of a reputation in the UK as like, it was a bit like sort of the lower rent stuff that, that the other the big four didn't want to pick up. And like, I remember seeing, by this point, and again, it wasn't like I was sitting online going, oh, the WCW booking is terrible. Oh, they should never have done this. They shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. But I had just sort of fallen off. Like, I was just sort of not as interested, whereas WWF was red hot and I couldn't miss it. It's like, I want to see what Rock and Triple H are doing. I want to see what Mick's doing. I want to see what's happening with The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Edge and Christian. I mean, they had such an all-star roster, and everyone was just firing on all cylinders, But I remember like seeing a random episode of like Worldwide, and I feel like Worldwide was, maybe they had like an original match, but then the rest of it was just sort of highlights or whatever. Anyway, but it was one of the ones where they had the blood coming down from the ceiling, and I just remember watching this, just going like, what am I watching? But I just sort of went, oh yeah, no, not for me. Like, and just but I didn't have to go online and tell everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to go and like broadcast to everyone that, you know, I'm no longer watching this. Like, who gives a shit? Yeah, like, but it's like now it's not enough for someone to just not watch something anymore. Now they have to, and what it really boils down to is everyone's so insecure that they need, you know, that we've this, you know, the generation is so narcissistic that they need everyone to agree with them.
Yeah.
It's not enough that, you know, you have an opinion. It's like, now you need to convince everyone else to agree with you. And
Absolutely.
I just go like, how do you have the energy? That's what I see some of this stuff sometimes, like, and I'll like, we have social media team and whatever, and every now and then they'll send something to me and I'll just go like, why are you sending this to me? Like, I think I just go, hey, I said this to them the other day because they said, oh, so-and-so's like trashing you or whatever. And I go, look, just because this person, this obviously unhappy, you know, person decided to spend, you know, way too much of their time and energy today on, you know, trying to be negative towards me, it doesn't mean that I have to spend, I don't have to give up my time and energy to read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about like being sensitive or anything like that. Like, no one likes people to trash them. No one likes getting their feelings hurt. But I just go like this. Me reading this even, what does this do for me? Like, it's not like I'm going to sit here and go, oh man, I suppose I better regroup and figure out a way to make this person happy. like it's just not going to happen. You know, I'm just going to go, okay, well, cool, man. I guess I'm sure there are people out, like I said, I'm sure there are people out there trashing me, and I'm sure after this interview there'll be, but I just go, hey, go for it. It's, you know, I got too much going on. I'm probably not going to read it. And if I do read it, I'll just probably feel sorry for you that you took that much time out of your day to do that. You could have been doing something more productive.
Absolutely, bro. We'll get away from this subject now.
Yes,
but
please.
you know, I just having a lot of fun talking about all of that, and I hadn't even got to any of my questions. But I wanted to, I guess I'll just skim down to talking about some NWA stuff. And I don't want to downplay any part of the previous part of your career because it's all very important, and that's what led you to where you're at right now. But I found this to be interesting, and I wanted to know like how it felt for you, because I didn't realize it until I did my research that you first won the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship at CZW Cage of Death 19 on the 9th of September 2017 at the Rastelli Complex in New Jersey. I just was like, that's so strange that it happened there in front of those fans. And it was obviously with the legendary Tim Storm. So how was that? And what was it like working with Tim and working with Tim over the years?
Well, first of all, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, really, like, the whole kind of foundation for whatever the NWA is today was really laid by Tim and I, and Tim played as big a part in that as I did. The CZW thing, I mean, even it was Dave Lagana was sort of the guy behind it, and he knew again, I don't want to get into this whole sort of philosophical debate, like, let's just say that that type of wrestling is not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I don't have it's hard to even say that now. You can't say that without somebody now taking it as a sort of personal attack on them or whatever, but it's like, it ain't for me, right? But if you like it, cool. I don't understand it. If you do that kind of stuff, again, all right, like, not for me. But we knew they would. We knew that show would do a good house. There was some tenuous link. I forget who all the people involved, but there was someone who was involved in that promotion was also involved with someone that we were working with. So I think it was just a sort of one of those things where it was thrown out as a sort of possibility. And for whatever reason, Dave and Billy liked the idea of it being this, they thought it would just be a really unique kind of moment in time that would grab attention, where people would go, wait, what? Like,
yeah.
And I think, on that level, I guess it worked. You know, I will say this: we just had a match. Like, we had a wrestling match.
Yeah.
A pretty short one at that. The best thing about, to me, the best thing about all that, like, was not only was it Cage of Death, where just the people were doing some just like unbelievably like unwise things, and obviously the crowd are they're a certain type. They're a little rough around the edges. But the best thing about all that to me was that Austin Idol was also there.
That's right, yeah.
Because it was just like, and let me tell you, there's no one more game than that man. He is like, he really is a legend. And I, for people who are unfamiliar with him, or if they see him now on NWA Powerrr and they just go like, what is the deal with this guy? Like, why is he? You need to go and do your homework and see some of the stuff that this guy did. I mean, Hulk Hogan has very openly admitted that his idea for Hulkamania came from Idolmania. Like, he said that openly, and I think he said it on Stone Cold's show, where he said that Austin Idol was doing the Idolmania thing. So I was kind of like, oh, what about Hulkamania? You know, because you could do that back then. Because if you were doing it in a different part of the country, guess what? Like, it doesn't exist. You know, so you could just, I mean, I'm not saying just rip stuff off, but guys did, they did borrow each other's stuff a lot and kind of rework it. But anyway, just for him to show up, I know so many guys from that era who would have shown up to a show like that and been like, one of the fuckers ass, and and buried it and been like, and been real hard to deal with, and Idol, he's been at House of Hardcore with me. He was at that show, obviously down at the Powerrr tapings, and he is always like, he shows up and he's like, all right, what are we doing today, brother? Like, he's just a pro's pro. This guy is still like healthy as a horse, like still, knows how to turn on his gimmick, can cut a promo like with zero notice. You can literally go, okay, just cut a promo, and he can do it. I mean, like, he has a skill set that you just cannot teach, and that it's a kind of real dying art, what he has. And I love having him around. And he's been a mentor to me in a lot of ways, just because of, I mean, that's probably my favorite part of the TV tapings in Atlanta, is me and him go get breakfast. I always take him to breakfast before we go to work. And we'll just, and other guys have come, like Davari came, like Davari's one of my good friends, and other guys have come, and we just sit there and ask him all these questions, like, hey, why, like, what was it like? What was it, who used to do the payoffs, or like, what happened to, when you were working for Vince Sr., and, if you didn't like your payoff, like, who'd you go talk to, just all these cool stories. And he just, and he's just sitting there like really upset. And I know I've gone off on a tangent about Idol, but that was like the despite the fact that going to that show, I mean, I will say this for the CZW guys, there was some great talent at that show. And everybody there was very welcoming and respectful, and very open to the idea. Like, I guess that was probably my biggest trepidation going into that show, was I was more worried that they were going to be like, oh, what the fuck's this guy doing here? Like, blah, blah, blah. And it turned out that was just the fans that did that. But, it was like, overall, it was a good piece of business. I think when you read it like you did, when you sort of read it historically, you sort of go, huh? But at the time, it sort of made sense in a weird way.
Awesome, man. So okay, so this is before there's any NWA Powerrr and things like that. You guys, it's an interesting situation because the NWA is such a famous brand in professional wrestling, but it's almost like you have to take this thing now and start from scratch almost. Even though it's such a famous brand, you're starting from scratch, and you've got to build it back up to being prestigious. And not that it wasn't prestigious anymore, but it needed to get back to.
You're on track. You're on the right track there with what you're saying. It wasn't very prestigious. Like it was. There was it was a legacy brand.
Yeah, and so finally you do like get the weekly show going on, and obviously that was huge, and all like a lot of my friends were just like, oh my God, Carl, like there's an old school wrestling thing going on right now, and they're doing a throwback, but it's kind of got a bit of new school as well. You got Powerrr going on. You're starting to do pay-per-views now. This is awesome. What else do you think the NWA requires to grow the brand further?
Well, now it needs, truthfully, it really needs an infrastructure. It really needs like a real team, and it probably needs some funding. The truth is, I feel like the company has reached a point where it cannot grow anymore without bringing in people, behind the scenes. Some of that is happening, but hey, look, it ain't my company, so it's not really for me to discuss. But just in my opinion, right now there's a group of us who wear a lot of hats. And I know that people always sort of, I think this is one of the reasons why I've become a bit of a target, but it's like they sort of take that to mean that like we're all sitting there discussing storylines. It's like just so funny to me because it's like, that's what, wrestling fans always immediately think that like the entire management of a wrestling company is just everyone sitting around going, okay, who's going to wrestle who? Like, what's going to be the next card? Like, that's the easy part, or it should be. That should be the easy part. It's not always. But it's like, no. When I say that there are those of us like wearing a lot of hats, it's like I'm like editing and directing and producing stuff and doing, for example, we have this St. Louis weekender coming up, which is like a hell of a lot of work because it's 2 back-to-back pay-per-views and then 2 days of TV tapings, and we have a tiny team compared to any other company. So like, on any given day, you have a bunch more stuff dumped in your lap, like, hey, athletic commission paperwork, or production plans, production budgets, all this sort of stuff. And truthfully, what needs to happen next really is for the company to have a real honest kind of discussion amongst like the key people about who do we need to bring in here to help like sort of grow this, because there's a lot of areas that people's responsibilities aren't 100% clear. And look, I know quite a few guys who were kind of in a similar position to, I guess, what I am now with like ECW, for example, with Heyman. And it was kind of the same thing where it was sort of like, there is no, like I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they pitched me an idea. And first thing I was like, hey, well, first of all, it's not my company, right? I don't own any of it. It's Billy's company, and anything that happens is up to him. But whatever, I'm sort of going, I can't even remember what the idea was, but I sort of went, yeah, no, I can see some benefit to that. But I just remember saying to them, nothing's going to happen about that right now because it's too far down the list of priorities for a company this size. Like, I agree with you on like I was, saying, so I agree with you on every level that this is a good idea. It's just not going to happen because we don't have enough people to make it happen. And you don't want you want to avoid situations like that. You don't want to keep letting opportunities pass you by because we just don't have enough people. We just don't have the team to make it happen. Like, this is more important right now. Somebody said to me once, "Hey, maybe run this up the flagpole and do it." And I said, "What flagpole?" I said, "Well, run it up the flagpole means I text Billy." You know what I mean? It's like, I just think people like to sort of, once you've produced content of a certain quality, people just sort of assume that it's this big company and you've got offices and like this and that. It's not the case here. But look, it's been very rewarding to be part of something from scratch and to have contributed as much as I have, and to just the fact that we have a show that gets a rights fee at all is pretty remarkable for such a short period of time. But yeah, really the key thing is, we'd have to build up the office is what would have to happen for that, for the company to really grow and move forward.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you were talking about that, it did make me think of ECW, even though it's kind of a little bit different, but also quite similar. Like they were now in this spot, on TNN, but like they didn't have the infrastructure that could handle the whole thing. They were still editing the show, in a basement somewhere.
Well, and the business term for it is critical mass, where basically, if you and it's more of a financial term in the sense that it means that you basically start overstretching, because in order to grow, you kind of borrow more money, or you do stuff on credit, and all. And I believe that was the case. You'd have to ask Heyman, but I believe that was part of the issue with ECW, was that they had money sitting there that they were waiting for from like pay-per-view and stuff, but then they had all this other stuff they had to try to cover, and it's like, it's like the killer of, cash flow is the killer of most small businesses. That's not an issue. That's not an issue with the NWA, but but in order to grow any more, financing would have to be revisited, I think. I mean, and again, this is just me on the outside looking in. Again, it's not my company. I don't have, it's not like I'm sitting here looking at the books, it's just, I'm a small business owner, so I understand sort of on a certain level what kind of issues that business faces.
Absolutely. So another thing I wanted to bring up was something that I find great about the NWA. It's been great seeing the likes of JTG and Chris Adonis and Trevor Murdoch and the Pope and a whole bunch of these guys who, we'd seen them previously on other companies' television, and they're finally getting like back into a spotlight again with a national brand. I really love it. Like the next thing, I think my friend Kevin was like, "Bro, Scott Steiner was in the last episode of Powerrr," and they'd be like, "Man, like they keep surprising me." So this is one thing I really like, is that there's some like unsung heroes getting the chance to show that they can still do it and still do it at a level. Just a random question, but who is somebody else, not signed to like a major company that maybe you would like to see in the NWA?
Well, one guy who I did, who probably would have been next, I suppose, except for the fact that WWE brought him back on as a producer, would have been Sean Daivari. Like, Sean's one of my best friends. We were roommates back in the day, and like, he's one of those guys. I've had a little bit of it myself, where because he got started so young, people forget how young he still is.
Yeah.
They sort of look at him as like, oh, this guy from that last era, and it's like, he's like 35, 36. It's like, but and that's kind of the same thing with Chris and JTG and those guys. It's like, wait, there's all these guys who are seasoned and in like in great shape, have got experience, can go, and like they're not, and they're not being showcased properly because people are perceiving them as sort of like their best days are behind them, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're just hitting their prime. Again, if you look back at, the peak eras of the business, most guys weren't even coming to the WWF until they were in their mid-30s.
Yeah.
Because WWF didn't want them until they'd ironed out all the kinks, and they were like, and they knew how to work smart. They knew they could go every night. They knew that they had, they knew how to control the audience, and they knew how to work with anyone. Like, and again, what influence I've had on that whole side of things, that's been my messaging from the beginning. Like, yeah, new blood is great, but new blood can only be cultivated and improved and molded into, stars by working with guys with experience. Can't get that by working with each other.
Yeah.
Okay. And you see this time and time again. Some guys got some buzz and they pick them up, and then and they're just constantly wrestling guys their own age, like this, with the same level of experience.
Yeah.
So then, and I think that's where a lot of this sort of over-rehearsed kind of stuff comes from, because like because they're not working with guys who go like, look, that's cool that you do all that stuff. Let's figure out a way to do it where we really get the most juice out of it. There's a guy who I think, and again, not trying to pat myself on the back here, Barry Horowitz style. There's a throwback to your Barry Horowitz reference. But I've got a pretty good track record. If you look back, I've got a pretty good track record of picking guys that, I think that this, he's going to do something.
Yeah.
Odinson is like, he's the guy that the NWA is using right now, that I go like, this guy has all the tools, is like, got just a killer look. I mean, it's unbelievable. He just and so I said he needs to wrestle guys like me, not put myself over, but he needs to wrestle guys who have been around a bit longer, so that he doesn't keep making these same, little mistakes, and doesn't fall into those bad habits to a point where they become permanent, and I know this just based on when I got thrown into the deep end at TNA. I had no clue what I was doing, really. I'd wrestled on the holiday camps in England, so I knew how to do that style. But that style is not TV, and it's not what I call a money drawing style either. It was a sort of showcase sort of style, very like, in and out, send them home happy sort of style, which is great for house shows. But it's, but if you want to learn how to actually sort of try to draw some money, or like, get some juice out of something and make, get the audience to emotionally invest, like, you need more than that. But I was lucky because I got, suddenly I'm like 21 and I'm working at TNA, and I'm working with the Dudleys and Beer Money and like AJ and Joe, and they give me like Doug as my tag partner, so like Doug's like, completely sort of, steering the ship for me. And I'm getting to, and then I, within 6 months of me getting, I wrestle Sting in a singles, but Sting, and I'm like, and I'm getting like Kevin Nash coming out, taking me out to the bar every night, and like, and I can't stress enough how much of a help Kevin was to me, just teaching me how to like approach this stuff properly. Samoa Joe probably taught me more than anyone as far as like the work in the ring, and again, nothing against, you play the hand you got dealt, but I thought back sometimes, and I would be quite envious of, like, I had friends who were around my age who were in developmental with WWE, and I'd be envious of that, obviously, because it's like WWE is the show, like they're at the show, but then I would talk to them, and a lot of them were kind of miserable because they'd be like, oh, like we should go to go, have to go to training every day, and they sort of felt like they were regressing. And this was before the performance center. I just want to say that this was before the PC and everything like that. But it was like, and I'm sort of, and I appreciated that I had a different, like, again, I didn't choose it. It was the hand I got dealt. But I'm sort of going, wow, the positives I can take from this are like, man, Terry Taylor said this to me, he goes, you're getting paid to go to college. Like, you're getting paid to get like this great education. You're working with all these guys who have made big money. Kurt and Steiner, who's become a good friend of mine, like, a guy who I like, we're not texting each other every day or anything like that. But when we see each other, it's always like big smiles, like big hugs, like, he always asks how my kids are doing. So it's like the fact that I was able to sort of be around all those sort of people, like the TNA roster in like 2009. I mean, it's a fucking all-star roster.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like the rookie on the, I'm like the rookie on the all-star team, and it was just like, God, couldn't pay for that. Couldn't pay for that education.
Absolutely, bro. And you are only 34 years old. I believe that's correct. Same age as me, 34. You've got so much more ahead of you, which is, exciting. And I think everything's going to be going swimmingly with the NWA in the future with you there as well. And this kind of brings us close to the end of the interview here, Nick. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I want you to have the chance here to plug anything and everything that you'd like to before I get to my final segment of the show.
Okay. Well, first of all, the big thing we've got coming up at the end of the month is the return to the Chase in St. Louis. Now, to Aussies, that may not mean a whole lot, but to wrestling historians and to certainly fans in the US of a certain age and who, in a certain geographic area, the Chase, which refers to the Chase Plaza Hotel in St. Louis, was sort of the epicenter of wrestling television in that part of the country for decades. Wrestling at the Chase was the television show. There hasn't been wrestling at the Chase since 1984. So for years the narrative was always, they'll never have it back. They don't, they're not interested. They don't want wrestling. I was talking to Delirious at Ring of Honor, and he was just like, man, he's like, so cool that you guys are going to the Chase. God, for years people tried to get in there and they just couldn't. They wouldn't have, and they would do it. They would do it for us, which is a testament to the work that guys like myself and and others have put in to sort of build that, to build the brand back up to that level of credibility. So back-to-back pay-per-views. 28th is the all women's pay-per-view in Powerrr, which of course my wife is the EP. She's helping put together. And then NWA 73, the 73rd anniversary of the NWA, and that's going to be the sort of culmination of what we're doing. That's going to be a sort of tentpole event, and we'll be doing TV tapings thereafter. So it's like, it'll be a totally different sort of vibe to anything else that's being seen. Which again, it's I'm a sort of believer in the Bischoff sort of philosophy of like, can't be bigger than, you can be different than, and this will be different for sure. Like it's, if you think of, I wonder what pro wrestling would have looked like in like Frank Sinatra's era. That's basically what the Chase Plaza, which is funny because at the Chase there's like pictures. I was there a couple of weeks ago to do press conference and all that, and they've been super welcoming to us and they're so excited to have us. And the general manager is like touring me around and going like, let me show you this champ, blah blah blah. And I'm looking on the wall and there's like pictures of all the presidents that have stayed there, and like the Rat Pack and Johnny Carson and all this, and I'm going like, what is going on? Like, why am I being toured around this? Anyway, so I'm just tickled pink about that, because it's a sort of, I like the fact that the NWA is has provided me with these rare opportunities to sort of do things that no one else has done, or do things that, bring back things that were kind of like you said, like a throwback, and people go, wow, that's so cool. So I think if you're interested in seeing a show that just has a totally different sort of vibe, a totally different kind of energy, than Wrestling at the Chase and the next season of Powerrr that will sort of follow on from it will totally get that. Like, it's gonna look and feel totally different. So that's that. And those pay-per-views and that season of the show will be available on Fight TV. So obviously you guys can get it there in Oz, get it anywhere in the world. As for me, my supplement company, Legacy Sports Nutrition, is doing really well, and that's really my other love, my other sort of focus. And we've just launched 5 new products. So now, in addition to the first 5 and then the women's stuff, we've got 15 products out now. Something for everyone. It's not just bodybuilding stuff. It's not just for like, meatheads, gym rats. It's there's some really good quality stuff in there that will really help you out. And everything that we market is stuff that I personally use. And that's kind of how the whole thing came about, because I started going, God, I like taking this every day. I feel better when I take this every day. And I just started going, well, I was going to get these formulas and market them, and so we've seen some really great growth. We're talking to some major retailers, which is a really cool thing to be that far along in such a short period of time. But you can get all of those. I have actually had some orders in Australia. So I don't, be patient on the shipping, for sure. But yeah, legacysups.com, legacysups.com, and you can use code Aldis, ALDIS, or Aldis. I don't really give a shit. People say Aldis and Aldis. I'm just like, whatever you feel like saying. But yeah, and you can get 10% off your whole order. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Real Nick Aldis, or on Instagram at Nick Aldis. I'm verified on both, so just look for the blue check. Don't follow some pretender.
Absolutely, bro. And everyone out there, in the description on YouTube, you can find all of that in there. And, we'll make sure that we advertise that as much as possible for you, Nick. But it comes to our final segment here, Nick. I'm springing it on you. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. It's about 10 quick fire questions. Is your favorite this, your favorite that? So straight out of the gate, the first 3 are about wrestling. Who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Bret Hart.
Excellent choice. Your favorite opponent over the years?
Cody Rhodes.
Excellent. Your favorite, this is a tough one, but the favorite match if you could look back and pick one, what would you pick?
NWA 70, Cody and I, 2 out of 3 falls, probably. It's a push. There's a few, but that would probably be the one.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Getting away from wrestling, your favorite book?
Ooh. There's actually a nice Aussie tie-in here. There's a series. I won't say one book, but there's a series of books. There's the Harriet Blue books, which are James Patterson. They're I forget the name of them all, but one's called Liar Liar. One's called the last one is called Hush. I can't remember what there's 4 books, and they're based in Australia, and it's about this female detective, Harriet Blue, and God, they're fantastic.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Favorite TV show?
The Simpsons, classic Simpsons, series, seasons 1 to 8.
Yeah, I think like the Conan O'Brien years. I
was going to say the Conan O'Brien years. Yeah.
Not to make it more difficult, but favorite film?
Again, I won't say one, but just the series, the Jason Bourne movies.
Yeah.
Born Identity, Supremacy, Ultimatum.
Yeah, fantastic. Favorite musical artist?
Eric Clapton.
Ah, very nice, very nice. Favorite food?
You can't beat a perfectly done, for me, a perfectly cooked ribeye, you know, and then with some like some sort of good potato, like a nice, you know, like some roasties or
Yeah.
some like something like, but yeah, a perfectly cooked ribeye for me is kind of, I'm always going to be happy with that.
Excellent, excellent. Favorite place to eat on the road?
Cracker Barrel.
Excellent. Always a popular
Can't beat
answer.
the country, the value, man, the value for money. The Country Boy breakfast, dude. I mean, like, you know, when I first came to the States, you know, I got introduced to a lot of those things like Waffle House, you know, and I was like, man, Waffle House is, for at the time, you know, when I was, obviously I have to watch it a little bit more now because my metabolism isn't as strong as it used to be. But, you know, being able to just go in there and be like, okay, you have to remember, you have the same. I've been to Australia, and it's, you know, you guys are probably closer to England on this in terms of your sort of food culture. It's a bit more like, okay, let's be sensible here. But if you're like, you're trying to pack on muscle and size and stuff, and like, you know, you come to the States and like just the readily available amounts of high quality food and in the quantities is still just like mind blowing. But it's, you know, there's so many 24-hour restaurants, and just like, you know, I remember, I mean, I would just, my first year, I was just so easily pleased. I was so happy, you know, like these guys go, oh, I guess we'll go to IHOP. And I'd be like, oh, IHOP, I love IHOP, you know. You know, because to me, it was just so cool that you could go in there any time of day and be like, and you know, being able to just say, oh, I want an extra chicken breast, and them not to look at you like, you want a what? Like, oh, hold on, let me talk to the manager. Like, there's like, yeah, sure, okay, no worries. Like, it's just, but Cracker Barrel, man, Country Boy breakfast, you can get steak and eggs, you get biscuits, apple butter, you know, the whole 9 yards, fried apples, the whole day, $10.
Oh, mate.
I mean, you just can't beat that.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I've heard a lot about the portion sizes over in the States because people expect to take food with them when they leave or something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing and frightening at the same time.
There's 3 to go, Nick. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Moscow Mule.
I'm not sure what that is. Could you enlighten me?
Vodka, ginger ale, and lime.
Oh, sounds good. Second last one, Nick, the naughtiest one of 5 Second Frenzy. Your favorite female body part. If you're going to check out a good-looking lady, if there's an attribute of theirs that you go to first, what do you go to?
Titties, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not saying it's got to be, but, you know, let's face it, like a perfect pair, it's like, and there's nothing more enchanting than that.
Fantastic, Nick. And the last one is your favorite curse word.
Oh, this is like inside the actor studio.
This is where I stole it from.
Favorite swear word.
I stole it.
Well, I mean, honorable mention for fuck, because it's just so versatile. But you know, one I like is dipshit.
Yeah.
Like it's like just a little bit less offensive, but it's just so accurate. Like when you use it in the right context, it just so accurately conveys. Like how to, you know, if you when you say like, what a dipshit, like you just know immediately what you're talking about, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like I think, and obviously I've lived in the States now for, gosh, almost, what are we now, 2021? So almost 11 years. So I think so the American sort of cuss words have now they've sort of taken priority in my vernacular, but it's a bit like, dipshits are like the American equivalent of wanker.
Yeah.
Like, someone can just, you can, it's like if you're sitting, British cynicism, you could be sitting in a pub with someone and you can just see someone come in and they sort of, and they're sort of acting up and, being whatever, or they just sort of, like some guy comes in, he's got his Bluetooth headset on, oh yeah, I've got my blah, 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 and you just sit there, wanker. But like, see here, you're like, what a dipshit.
Yeah, no, good call, bro. Good call. Well, Nick, I really want to thank you for your time here today, being on the show with me. My face now hurts from laughing, so that's great. So I know that I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. And I just wanted to say, the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, is where I'm from. And you have a whole group of people here that are fans of yours. So to have that kind of reach, I think, is something special. So I just wanted to let you know that you're appreciated from all the way over here.
Oh, that's very cool, man. I think I've wrestled in Perth. I want to say when we did the House of Hardcore tour in 2018. I think we did Perth.
Of course.
And I think it might have been at a theme park.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking about.
It was so fun. That whole tour was fun. But I remember, like, we were. I remember that, our sort of dressing room area was just sort of like this sort of staff catering area, but like behind we were sitting amongst all these rides, and I wish I could remember the name of it. We did that show at this theme park in Perth.
Yeah.
And there was where we were getting ready was like right by this ride that I said, this is the most Australian sounding, this is the most perfect Aussie like theme park ride I've ever heard. It was called the Little Butte Toot Toot. And we were all like Mick Foley was on that tour, and like Billy Gunn, and like I just kept walking around, and I don't know why, but I kept saying it like in Ric Flair style, like and I'd be like, the Little Butte Toot Toot, brother, like, and that was one of the big things we took away from that tour. Like every time we get on a plane, I'd come on, and like Mick would get on, and I'd be like, the Little Butte Toot Toot, and he'd just start like busting up laughing. I said, that's the most Aussie thing I've ever heard in my life.
It absolutely is, Nick. Well, thanks for hopping back in and sharing that with me, bro. And I'll let you get on with your day. Just want to thank you so much again for doing the show with me.
No problem, man. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. And thank you to everyone out there for watching the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Fury, here with the World Heavyweight Champion, and we will see you next time. Thank you.